Let's go ahead and make this a different, we're going to complete this out and do a larger study. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to make use of the delete key. I'm going to delete everything here in the mesh. I'm going to run myself back to the geometry. I'm going to look at the body where I'm at, and I'm going to put another tube in here. Let me put a tube that the radius is too much. Let's make a smaller tube. Let's make it 20. Apply and close. This new tube or cylinder, if I don't particularly like it, I'm going to roll it over somewhere. I'm going to rotate it about something. Problem is what am I going to rotate about? What axis? And I don't have an axis, so I'm going to throw in here a vector. I'm going to look at the vector going about the x. So I'm going to run this vector. I'm going to make it long enough so that we can see, you can see the vector. No other reason but just that you want to see it. Then I'm going to go in here and rotate an object, not the vector, but I'm going to rotate the cylinder about about a vector. I want to see it while I'm rotating it. I'm going to rotate it so you can see it rotating down in the background here. Rotate it 90 degrees. I don't want to create a copy. I want the original. Now that I have the cylinder, I'm going to move it around. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to create a copy. I'm going to basically, and I'm going to preview it, so I want to see the thing move up, and that's good enough. Then I'm going to go and add these two together. You can actually hold the shift key down. I believe this works. I believe it's wrong. It does not work. So I got to add the body and the object together. I'm going to call it final. But in case you mess up, you can select that item, hit F2 and type in final. Hit enter and you've named it. I don't want to see anything else but it. I could do show only. I want the color to be this color just because it's there. I want to view it in display mode. Sometimes, alright, so here, there's the object. It's not perfect. It's okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to really look at some interesting parts of this. Let's say one is an inlet duct. Let's say for instance that I really want this end to be, say, flow coming in, and I want the flow to go out up here. So this would be an exlet. Everything else, all these others, are going to be walls. This is going to be like an inlet, and this is going to be an exit. So with all that, I'm going to go in here and break some things apart. So let's take this thing and right click, or just select it, go to new entity, explode it. But how do we want to explode it? Do we want to explode the shells or faces? I think we're going to do the faces. So you got all these faces here. So here's what I generally like to do. I like to turn off everything or just select one and do show only. And then I like to go through them. Uh-oh, there is the inlet. So I'll hit a F2, inlet. Then I'm going to go down through here and look for, that's, okay, there is exit. F2, exit. Everything else is going to be a wall. So what I'm going to do is hit F2, wall. Go down a couple, F2, wall. F2, wall. F2, wall. F2 wall, F2 wall, F2 wall, F2 wall, and then finally an F2 and a wall. Uh-oh. Oh, I did a backwards key. So I believe that was called final. F2 final, enter. Then this should have been F2 wall. So now I have everything together here. If I double check them all, this is what I have. I could even go in and say color of that thing is blue. I could say I want to view them in display mode of shading. Then I'll take the exit and make it color of that, red or something. So now what I've got is I've got it set up so that the walls are all yellow. The inlet is blue. The exit is red. Now I want to go in back into the mesh, because what I've done is I've broken this apart with the surfaces that encompass the body itself. So I'm going to go select that, go back into the mesh. Nothing there right now, so I'm going to create something. I'm basically working off of the geometry. So what I'm saying is that the geometry is final, which is what exists right there. I'm going to go ahead and use the same algorithm. I don't know, how about 24? I want reasonable. Uh-oh, this happens sometimes. Nothing you can do about it. Or there is probably something, but I'm not going to address it. So I'm going to go out of here. Now I am going to save as. I'll just call it study 1 for right now. Shut them down. This is my solution to this. There's probably someone else who has a better one. Okay, so I will open study open. Go ahead and get rid of that. Okay, I've got my mesh sitting right here. I mean my final body sitting right there. So there it is. Go back into mesh now. Okay, I need to hit this. I think I got myself in there, yes. And then I'll create the mesh off the final. Let's hope that this time it doesn't blow up on me. If it does, then we'll address that in a minute. Okay, I think I got all the parameters in there. Whoa. I thought I put in 25. And then maybe I didn't. Maybe I'm just thinking of that from last time. Apply and close. Now I'll hit this. It'll run the grid generator in the background. It's not a perfect situation. Sometimes the thing does crash, but usually if you're aware of it, you work your way around it, you'll be fine. So there's our mesh. Looks very, very fine down in here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something interesting here. And I could probably do it off of here, but now here I'm operating on pure memory, so I won't be perfectly efficient, but that's okay. I'm going to work create a submesh, or better yet, here, why don't I do this? I will create a group from the geometry. The mesh, I need to select the mesh. I need to select the geometries, so I'm going to select inlet. And hit apply and close. So there is my group of faces. I could do like that and move it back out, possibly be able to find it. Oh, if I would find it, what you'll notice is up here it labels the inlet, and if I can get this in here, you'll see that that's the inlet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in and create another group. I got the mesh one, the geometry. I'm going to grab from wall. I believe I can hold the shift. Oh, no. I have to hold the control key down. Select all the walls and hit OK. Now, one of the problems here is I may have, it may be better for me to group them back up here than group them here. But for the meantime, I'm going to say I'm going to go and ahead and do it this way. This may not be the best way to do it. Let's do one more group off of the mesh, the geometry. I believe I did the exit already, or the entrance already. Okay, so if this particular point, you can see all of the external surfaces here. You can even go in and say I want to whoops. You can, it's kind of falling off the screen here, so I don't have a complete choice of everything. You can see I changed the color of the inlet, and I will try to do the same thing with the exit. That's not that much difference, so maybe I'll do it again. So what you see is the color of the different items, and you can run around over the mesh and take a look at it. And at this point, this is one particular way of doing it. Now there is another way which might be better if I want to run back into the geometry and do something of this nature. Do a group, create a group. The group is going to consist of faces. The main shape is going to be final. I'll say I'll do a capital I for inlet here, and I'm going to select here. Okay, hang on. There it is. And we'll hit add. It's entity 64. Apply and close. So what we have now is we have a group signified by this symbol. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to create another group that it'll be consist of faces. This group will be considered walls with an S. This time I'm going to go in and hold the control key down if I'm careful. I may have to do it one at a time. So if I go in, hit that and add, I think it had something to do with me selecting or moving the mouse key in a virtual machine environment. Okay, so I think I've got all my walls. I'm not exactly sure. So here I have a group of walls. I'll go back and add one more group. And remember, we're selecting a surface. We're going to name this group Exit. It's capital E instead of a small e. Add it. Apply and close. Okay, so now if I turn off everything and then turn off the exit, turn off the inlet, and if I go in here and say display mode shading, what you should be able to see if you zoom into it is you'll see that you can look straight in there. The surface is not shown. There you can see it, but it is wireframed. Look down this tube, I can look down that one as well. So you can see inside. So this is what the room would actually look like. You'd look down the tube, see inside the room. We're going to basically treat this as though it's some type of room with an air conditioner system or something in there. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and save it, but I'm going to go back into the meshing mode because the groups of faces should be done differently. I'm going to hit the delete key and see if it'll allow me to delete all of them. And in fact it did. This time I'm going to do a mesh, create a group from geometry. I've already got the fact that it's going to be mesh. The geometry is going to be inlet, apply and close. I'm going to go back in and create a group from geometry. It's already designated since I had mesh 1 selected. Then I'll say walls and apply and close. And then I'll select mesh, create groups from geometry. And since I got inlet walls, I need the exit, apply and close. So now I can look at the inlet, edit the group, say I want the inlet to be red. I want the walls to be, I don't want the walls to be black. How about that color, whatever that is? Go ahead and turn them on. Then I'll select the exit. I don't like that color, so we will change the color to like a light, some type of light thing. So now let's take a look at what we have. What we have in the view is we have the walls selected right here. The inlet is basically sitting here, and the exit's color coded. Now, reason you see the white there is because I have that selected down here. If I basically go back and unselect that, you'll see that that pretty much goes away. So now what you basically see is you see the color coded, and you see the inlet. Now you have to remember we're moving it in the y direction, so we're going to have a velocity in the y and no velocity in the x and no velocity in the z. So at this particular point we can go in and let's save it one last time before we give up, and we're going to take our mesh and we're going to export it to what's called an ideas file, and I'm just going to call it, just stick with mesh 1, I don't really care. I should have moved it into a directory, and that's what I'm going to do here in a second. So it has finished writing this. I'm going to bring in my home folder, and you'll see some of it sitting here. Here's my study, here's my mesh. I don't really like it, so I'm going to create a folder and call it study 1. I'm going to move the mesh into it. I'm going to move this study into it. And for this matter, at this point, I'm just going to exit this. Okay, so right now in study, you see these two. Okay, so if you want to see where we are again, you can come back. This time, give it a second. We're going to open, I'm going to go to the window. I'm going to open, what did I call it, study, and there's my study. I can go to my geometry, and I can see my geometry there. I can go to my mesh. Let me drag this over. I can see my mesh here with my groups of faces. So get rid of the Python window, and at this particular point we're back where we were. You can see everything there. You can go in and highlight things. So at this point I'm very satisfied, so I'm going to cut the video off, and then the next step we're going to look at doing a simulation based on this ideas file. Let's take a look at the ideas file. What you'll see is it's a huge text file. Goes down, and you'll see, if you remember, let's do a walls for example. You'll find a setup with the walls. Now this is the data, and below this description is the walls. I guess if you wanted to, we could enter back up here and do inlet up. But we don't have to do this, but you can just see where the inlet is. You can see where the exit, I think is what I titled it. There's the exit, and then up above here is the walls. So all this information sits within this ideas file. So we've run this thing 22 minutes. Let's stop it and go on to the next phase, which is a simulation.